It's so fascinating the way that our journey works. And for those people who don't know, well, what rolfing is, because I literally just kind of got exposed to it earlier this year. Take us through, what is the technique of rolfing?
Rolfing is just the last name of Ida P. Rolf, who she's
Such a badass.
She's a badass.
She's still,
oh, good. You're familiar with Ida Rolf? That's amazing.
She's like 90 or something, isn't she?
She's not alive anymore. She would be 90.
Okay, she would have been.
She'd be older than that, actually. Even I think she'd be in her 90s. And so structural integration was the term, and a lot of the influence on her was through osteopathy. So the founder of that, Dr. Andrew Taylor Still, who he's just like brilliant and amazing. Highly recommend people reading anything by Andrew Taylor Still. And a lot of the practices, like if you're familiar with like Feldenkrais method or Alexander technique,
heard of Feldenkrais, yes.
All of them are in very similar veins, and essentially it's about Rolfing specifically is working with connective tissue or fascia. And like the intelligence within the fascia, which is very interesting. And then the broader idea within those practices is to integrate the entirety of the body. So you're integrating the relationship of the foot to the knee, to the pelvis, to the spine, to the shoulders, to your breath, ultimately to your perception, ultimately to your environment. So we become the shape of our environment, right? And so if you can start to structurally integrate or align your home environment, your biological home, then just your existence, when you take a walk, it makes things better. It becomes a restorative step.
Right.
When you take a breath, it becomes a restorative breath. So just so we can all get to a point where our body essentially it becomes like self-tuning, self-healing systems.
Right.
That's that's where we're going.
That's the homeostasis.
That's
where we want to get to.
And then it's and the more robust you have of that balance kind of like center point, more deeper relationship you have with that, the easier or more available you are to come back to that point. So to have the idea that I always just need to be in this perfect equipoise homeostatic state would be crazy.
Right.
So it's like completely okay to get thrown off your center. There's no such thing as balance. There's just balancing. It's kind of like a cliche, cheesy thing to say, but it's true.
Right. Well, I feel like you're using balance and your body as kind of like the metaphor of kind of like what's off center in your life, as well as off kilter kind of like in the body. And I feel like a lot of these practices and methodologies really do come from kind of the somatic experiencing of like the external world and how we relate it to the internal world, right?
Totally. It's so freaking interesting.
So fascinating.
when you get out of the idea of the body just as being like bicep brachialis and latissimus dorsi and how do I get a better muscle up? Like that's great. It's important to just have very physical goals, and it's important to have very emotionally based goals or internal goals. It's okay to have those, but when you start to integrate all of it, I think it just becomes so much more interesting. It's like learning about the stars. So if you just look up in the sky and you see like blackness and these little like polka dots, you're like, oh cool, whatever, like red. But then you learn about black holes and you learn about gravity and you learn about solar flares and all this different like magic that's happening in there. Your experience taking a walk under the night sky becomes richer just because you started the process of paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
And so many humans, myself included, have moments of feeling like maybe like bored in a way, like what am I doing? Like I just want some action.
Yeah.
It's like you're in the action. Like you're always in the action.
And I feel like for somebody who's so go, and for a lot of our audience who is like they're entering motherhood, or they're running their businesses, or they're professionals, and they need to get that hours of workout in, or and they're constantly in that rush where they're not really paying attention. What advice do you have for them?
Have anchor points. Come back to your body. Anytime that you pay attention to your breath, anytime you pay attention to the sensation of the couch on your skin, like you only have so much bandwidth available. So if you allow your bandwidth to get pulled out to stressing out about what's going to happen in the future or what already happened in the past, then that's fine. There's nothing, there's no moralistic bad good. Just that's your bandwidth. That's what you've offered it to. And so at any moment you have the opportunity to just bring your attention to what's happening truly in the here and now. If you're just doing that and you're just like this floating, vacuum of consciousness, you're like here and now. It's like a little hard to like grab that.
Right.
But it's like literally just like listen to the room. Okay, what's going on in the room? Oh, there's a little fan in the background. Oh, you might hear, okay, I hear some people breathing. I hear myself breathe. Oh, I hear myself breathing. I'm breathing.
Because most of the time we're not even, like you said that before we started the podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't really been breathing, like full belly breathing.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And even before we had that experience, I'm like, oh yeah, why am I breathing just in my chest?
Yeah, and that's like the another cliche, borderline annoying thing to say, but where your attention goes, energy flows. It's like very like end of yoga class type thing to say. So I apologize already. And it's
but
true.
It's true.
And it's true.
Right. So true. It's like one of those daily dose reminders that we constantly need. Yeah.
Or that we constantly get to have.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
See you next time at the Brave Table.